This time we're going to be discussing Empress of Mars.
And we're going to stop doing this voice now, because otherwise it will take 3 weeks to review the episode. Excuse me.
How did they do it?
Nick Briggs, what is your... Well, he didn't even do the voice in the episode. Nick Briggs, how do you do it, man?
I don't even... Anyway, Empress of Mars. Also, it's apropos that we're doing this with our thumbnail now because we're doing this on the day of the royal wedding.
Yeah, congratulations to Harry and Meghan, even though we didn't really... I'm being nice. we didn't really watch it.
Before we do the actual review, am I the only one who's weirded out that it's called Empress of Mars, not the Empress of Mars? I
think it is actually called the Empress of Mars. I've got the DVD case here.
Because I seem to remember in the opening credits it was just labelled Empress of Mars.
No, yeah, you're right. There is no the.
Weird. I mean, completely pointless, and it doesn't matter to the episode at all. But it's weird. Still.
Anyway, this one was decent.
Thank goodness, considering that most of our last 3 reviews have been endless ranting. This one's actually probably going to be a pretty short one because it's a good fun romp, but there's not a great deal of meat to this episode.
No.
We discussed that it might have actually worked better if it was in season 8 because of the whole soldier subtext and subtext, and the fact that that's what they were going with in.
I was going to say subtext. You call that subtext in season 8?
Forgive me. But yeah, it still works as a nice episode, and
yeah, it's certainly fun. Ice Warriors, I always like seeing them. They're one of my favourites.
Who doesn't love the Ice Warriors, really?
Yeah, because unlike most recurring monsters, they're individuals. They're not like the Sontarans where they're literally clones, or the Daleks where they're a collective, or the Cybermen where they're supposed to be the same. No, they all have their individual names. They all have their own personalities. They're all interesting.
I mean, you can have a lot of them, as a fighting force and have them be unnamed the same way you could have all the human red shirts in an episode. But the central ones, like Iraxo and Friday in this one, you can give them personalities.
I mean, as much as we talk about how much we love Strax, he's the only Sontaran character worth noting because all the others are pretty much the same.
Mostly, yeah.
But with the Ice Warriors, they all feel like individuals.
And even in this one, you've got Friday, who is an outlier in the Ice Warriors, who doesn't just want endless war and conquest. He actually wants to form peace with these people because he thinks it's important to do, and because Mars is all kinds of dead.
And then you've got Araxa, who's sort of very stuck in her ways of, we're the Martians, we must conquer.
Which is understandable, given that she's just woken up after having been asleep since a time where the Martians were masters of everything. Well, everything they saw, unless they saw Daleks, but irrelevant. Speaking of wartime, another random note: the Ice Warriors' weapons. There seems to be a bit of debate as to whether they look really cool and brutal, crushing people into cubes, or whether they look really silly.
I think it's the way the bodies just kind of bounce.
I like it because it's like, oh, that's brutal.
Yeah. I think because of the bouncing, it looks silly, but you do sort of go, oh wow, that's dark. Because before they were just sort of really, they were sort of really sort of generic sonic blaster weapons. Somebody goes and then they fall down. Excuse my phone. But here, they actually go all out with the whole idea of the sonic blasters, and it pretty much crushes them.
It's like there's a bit at the very beginning of X-Men Apocalypse, which is a decent movie, where a character uses telekinesis to crush another human into a cube, into a ball. It's like, oh, whoa, that was a lot more brutal than we were expecting. And it's that happens again in this episode. It's that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, it looks kind of silly, but it's also really cool and brutal.
Yeah.
We like brutal deaths. Apparently, we're massive sadists.
Yeah. Masochist. No, yeah. Well, I'm both.
Let's not get into that right now. That would be a very, very different kind of podcast.
I don't know. I'm just talking about later episodes where things get really sad. I don't know what you're talking about. The Victorians. This one had a pretty good premise to it, actually. Victorians on Mars. That sort of drags you in because obviously we still haven't made it to Mars.
Not in person anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, we sampled it. It's entirely inhabited by robots. Thinking about that.
Yeah, that's cool.
But you know, the reasoning sort of makes sense. You know, there's just a small detachment of soldiers who happen to find this Ice Warrior spaceship.
Nobody ever found that, and they are actually written like
Victorians.
Well, we say that neither of us have ever met a Victorian, except maybe one of our primary school teachers.
I think she only recently retired.
Yeah, but like they do feel like what we suspect Victorians would probably talk like, which again,
at least they feel very much like they've come out of a Victorian novel.
They feel like they come out of Victorian, like a piece of Victorian media, which we don't know how accurate it is, but whatever.
I mean, Mark Gatiss has always been a sort of caricaturist when it comes to his stories. Like, you know, the Churchill we see in Victory of the Daleks is very much the Churchill that the public eye tend to think about.
Yeah.
Or
but we're not getting into that right now.
I'm just trying to think of another example of. I'm just going through all the Mark Gatiss episodes in my head.
Well, I mean, he wrote Invaders from Mars, which features which features Orson Welles being very, very Orson Welles.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few people who really liked that episode.
I found it dragged until about part 4, where it actually got kind of entertaining.
I loved it just because it was so ridiculous and silly all the way through. Like, it's hilarious bit where it's like these two aliens have come down to Earth, and one of them's like, we're going to destroy everything. The other one said, no, we can't destroy anything. We haven't got the firepower. It's just, the delivery of that line is just perfect.
Because they're just two little diddy guys, aren't they?
they're I mean, it's audio, so we don't know, but they come across like stereotypical little green men. Mm. It's so funny. And hey, another Mark Gatiss episode about Mars.
Yeah.
And in that one, they even scare them off by pretending that the Ice Warriors are invading by using the broadcast of
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
I mean, he's a lot better than people give him credit for.
Which is, actually, that does remind me, something that I found a bit odd while watching this. There wasn't a great deal of comedy in here.
That's true, yeah.
Which now that we think about it, comedy is something that Mark Gatiss can really do well. As we just said with the Invaders from Mars, it's a fairly serious story. It involves like murder and death and people being ripped to shreds. But there's a lot of really funny moments in it. Yeah. But there's no really funny moments in this. There's very little comedy.
I mean, the best I can think of is you know, Bill coming out with the movie references every so often, like, oh yeah, this is just like The Thing, or some other movie, or The Terminator.
And then the Doctor's like, oh yeah, it's like Frozen. Yeah. Which don't get me wrong, they're all good movies, but like, what was with all the movie references in this? I
mean, Bill was born in the 90s, so she's probably gonna. She's a teenager essentially. I mean,
she's us.
Yeah, she's us. I mean, let's be honest. We're looking into a mirror here, guys.
I'm not complaining. I'd be very happy if I looked like Pearl Mackie.
Mind you, when they said, "Oh, this could be the Ice Queen," I thought, "Oh, they're going to make a Frozen joke, aren't they?" But it wasn't the one I was expecting.
Not the one you expected.
So credit to Mark there.
Interesting, actually, that we do see the very first female Ice Warrior here. I mean, there was that time when Ice Warrior possessed Beth Chalmers in Thin Ice. Again, big finish. But
that was going to be a TV story,
but also Beth Chalmers literally appears everywhere in Big Finish.
Yeah. She's kind of like the pit bull of Big Finish. She'll just turn up in audios all over the place. Mm. I quite like the conflict here as well, because essentially it's the humans invading Mars.
Oh yeah.
But of course, as the Doctor says, they're completely outgunned, so he needs to try and figure out a way of, you know, trying to make peace. And I do like that they do eventually come through a peaceful solution.
Yeah, I like that basically the conflict is the Doctor running around saying, everybody just calm down, and then Neville Catchlove just ruining everything because he is the worst.
He reminds me a lot of the of Whiskey in Kingsman 2. It's probably only because I've recently rewatched Kingsman 2. But it's just basically like this guy who just stirs up trouble.
It's like
for his own agenda.
It probably would have been more impactful if we hadn't already had a previous episode this season with, you know, evil Victorians doing horrible things.
Yeah, I mean it's like the joke with you know, where the Colonel, whose name I forget. Anyway, he sort of laughs at the idea of when Bill says, "Oh, we're sort of like police," and he laughs at Bill being a policewoman. It's like, funny, because he can put up with aliens on Mars, but not a woman being a police officer. That would have been a lot funnier, though, if we hadn't already had Thin Ice, which had dealt with, like, a bigoted Victorian picking on Bill.
Yeah. Like, that was... I get the impression that was an attempt at comedy, but it was not as successful as it should have been.
It felt like a retread.
Kind of. Which is a shame, because...
Because it would have been a good joke out of context.
Yeah. If they pointed that out more as well, it's like, you can believe in aliens from Mars, but, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. But, one thing I did sort of turn to you and say when we were watching it, speaking on that particular scene, was... Okay, so the Colonel's been, he's been tried for desertion, and they tried to hang him, but it didn't work. So why did they let him back in? I don't know whether... Because you mentioned there may have been some kind of loophole that was around at the time.
I was just spitballing, trying to find any kind of justification for this, because, it's pretty silly. Like, why did they let him back in?
I mean, I don't know much about, military or... what the kind of the kind of legislation that you have in there, but that seems like a bit of an odd decision. Somebody's been tried for desertion. Well, we can't kill him, so just let him back in. Why don't you just exile him or something?
The only thing I can think of is in Torchwood Miracle Day, which, if you don't know the premise, it's people stop dying all over the planet and everything goes wrong because people everything quickly starts piling up. But like the main person, the first big public person to not die because of Miracle Day was this incredibly awful criminal who did some unspeakable things to a child and then killed her.
Who was just about to be executed.
And they executed him via lethal injection, but because it was now Miracle Day, he survived. And like he used the loophole, like, you carried out the sentence, and so you can't keep me here anymore. It doesn't matter that I'm not dead. You carried out the sentence. I don't know if that has any legal standing, but if it does, that's probably the loophole they went with.
It just seemed a bit odd.
It sounds a bit fishy to me, but I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, but I do like how his sort of redemption. He kills Catchlove, and then offers his life in place of all of his soldiers. That was a really good scene, I think.
And Iraxa saw that and thought, oh, maybe these humans aren't as awful as I thought.
I like you. You can work for me.
I do actually like Iraxa here because...
Iraxa's great.
Because, she's like, okay, all these people, all these saying things... Oh, look, there's a woman here. Let's ask her because yeah, she's probably got more sense than all the men. And then when she finds out that one of these guys does have sense, she's like, oh, actually, I kind of respect you. I'm not going to kill you yet. You're cool. You can keep going around. You can keep going. Yeah. Like you get where the conflict comes from, because she's just woken up from 5,000 years of sleep where she was where her entire her species' entire modus operandi was conquer everything we can see, but having to suddenly wake up into this new world where Mars is dead and she's being invaded by these pink, fleshy, loud, annoying things, and one of her only helpers is trying to help the annoying pink, fleshy things.
The pink, fleshy bipeds. I mean,
but you do get the impression that she does that. Once she gets past the instant, oh God, what's going on? Rage, kill everything. Yeah. She does have a lot of sense.
She is quite open-minded.
I like the fact that Iraxa, despite being ostensibly the monster, is not the villain of this episode. Catchlove is. Like, Iraxa has a lot of sense once you actually get past the
real villain was humanity all along.
Maybe the real villain was the friends we made on the way.
Yeah.
Are you going to betray me? If you're the villain,
or are you the villain?
Inception noise.
Or maybe we're both the villain. But also, she's sort of stubborn, but she's stubborn, but she's open-minded. If that makes any sense, like she's sort of set in her ways, but she's willing to talk and listen.
And as they made a point in the episode, much like humans, that's very, very human.
Yeah, it's a very human. Yeah, it's at its heart it's a very basic story about two. It's basically the sort of sort of Native Americans versus it's the Avatar kind of story.
Yeah,
where,
but in this case,
where the white man comes along, plunders this place for its resources, doesn't really give a shit about the people. Beg your pardon. You can bleep that. And then and then at the end of the day, they're not really all that different. You know, they're at the end of the day, they're still human beings.
9 episodes. We made sure that we weren't going to swear in this series, and you made it 9 episodes.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, I will that out in editing.
You'll give me a very good scolding later.
I'm going to give you a very good scolding now.
Dishonor on you! Dishonor on your cow!
Nodal, that
Nodal existed.
Yeah, that whole subplot was a bit pointless.
It kind of was. It only existed to really to set up the finale, which is where Missy is trying to be a good person.
Yeah, I think they sort of realised they hadn't really done much with Missy trying to be a good person, and they just sort of shoehorned it in. I mean, it made for a decent scene at the end, but otherwise it was really just kind of distracting.
Like Missy nonchalantly poking her head out from behind the TARDIS console is adorable, but
she knows she's going to get told off.
She knows she's not meant to be there, but it's like, yeah, but I kind of had to.
Yeah. Also, it robbed us of Nardole in this episode.
Yeah, but Nardole wouldn't really have had much of a point in this episode.
Yeah, and I mean, it did give us more Bill,
which is always a good thing.
And I do quite like the interplay between her and the Doctor in this as well.
Although, again, she didn't really get to do that much. She talked to Araxa that one time, but it was mostly the Doctor who did half the work, did most of the work.
Yeah, but I do like how Araxa was willing to listen to Bill.
Yeah.
You know, like they did sort of have that common ground.
We're kind of repeating ourselves now, but as we said earlier, there's not a great deal to talk about in this episode. It's fun, it's a good romp, but there's not a great deal of meat to it. No. Not that that's a bad thing. We're not criticising it at all.
It's just it's an episode you could probably watch just sort of chilling out, rather than looking for a great big chunk of meaty story.
Still, sometimes you need those, especially after the big weighty 3-parter, and considering we have a very meaty 2-part finale coming up.
Yes, this is true. So
we've got another episode after that, which we'll get to eventually. Probably.
It'll be slightly more meaty than this one.
Yeah, but
that's for next time.
We were going to say next week, but that's being incredibly optimistic.
No, we'll wait for the next royal wedding.
I don't think we'll wait that long.
Wait for the one after that.
Yeah, possibly. Who knows? Anyway, we shall see you next time for the Eaters of Light. Till then, take care.
Take care.
Ha.